Okay, this video is from the book Wisdom Quotes, Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, P. Rogers, available at Amazon.com. Okay, Carneades, the Greek philosopher from 214 to 129 BC. He was at the academy which had been founded by Plato. And his first statement here is, doubt is the beginning of wisdom. And of course, there's a bunch of beginning of wisdom. There's Proverbs in the Bible that says, fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, you know. Socrates had said the proper naming of things is the beginning of wisdom. Okay. Aristotle had said the first step to an intelligent conversation is to remove emotions. Okay, there's a whole bunch of different versions of the beginning of wisdom. Asking why is the beginning of wisdom. All right, Carneades continues. The ability to entertain contradictory ideas is the mark of intellectual maturity. And that's very much like an Aristotle quote, you know. It's a sign of an intelligent person. They can handle the nuance. They can discuss a subject from several points of view without getting emotional. Okay, Carneades continues. A philosophy that puts women and children first does not help men to survive. Not all that happens is because of fate. Some of it is in our hands. Okay, now that's a very interesting statement, and that alludes to what Ayn Rand had said about literature. Ayn Rand had said there's two categories of literature. There's either romantic literature or there is naturalistic literature. And she is a proponent of what she calls romantic realism. I actually think, you know, she's absolutely right. Ayn Rand wrote a book called The Romantic Manifesto. It's the best book ever written on literature. It's just magnificent. It's so brilliant. Actually, that book and The Art of Literature by Arthur Schopenhauer. If you want to really have a deep understanding of literature, those are the two best. And actually, there's one other book I'll mention here too, is the Rhyme, Rhetoric, and Logic by me on literature. But mine's different though. Mine's more about how to write. Hers is more about understanding literature, but it's also about how to write. What Ayn Rand talks about is how does an artist pick their material. And she basically says, if you're a romantic writer, you believe that the individual has the ability to make choices that determine their fate. Versus if you're a naturalistic reader, you believe that the person's almost entire life is determined by fate, and they really don't have any choice in the matter. And so she basically says naturalistic writing is, you know, depressing, it's pessimistic, it's modernist, crap style, and there's no sort of point to it, there's no plot to it, everything just sort of happens from bad luck. Okay, and then she says in romantic literature, the head character specifically determines their own fate by all their choices and their efforts. In reality, life is both. You know, you do the best you can making your choices and putting your best effort into doing things, but some things are also fate. So you have to, you know, walk the line and figure out where you want to, you know, determine how much is fate, how much is your own behavior. But I can tell you, Ayn Rand's really thought about it a lot. She's done her reading. She's a major scholar of literature. And that's a magnificent book, Romantic Manifesto. Okay, anyways, Andrew Carnegie, he was the great tycoon businessman, but also a philanthropist. He said a library outranks any other thing a community can do for people. And I actually think, yeah, we'd be better off if we had more libraries, more audio CDs, more DVDs, because if you look at what's happening around us, I think something bad is happening. What I mean by that is, I remember going to the store and buying an audio CD if I liked a rock and roll group, you know, the hair bands or something, okay? Let's say Bon Jovi or something, all right? Iron Maiden or something. Okay, but what am I getting at is nowadays, you know, not that many people buy CDs. You buy a brand new car, it won't even have a CD player in it. You buy a brand new computer, it won't have a CD player or a DVD player in it. And I think that's a mistake. Because what you're doing is you're giving all the power to the distributor. Like, let's say, the internet. And so right now you can easily type in, I want to hear such and such a song. But just as easily, you know, the internet video sites, music sites, they could delete that song and you could never hear it again. If you own the hard copy CD, you could always hear it. And so what I'm saying is there's a big trend to kind of get rid of Western civilization, to take Western civ and throw it into a garbage can. And don't be surprised if lots and lots of videos that are promoting Western civilization progressively get more and more shadow banned, progressively become harder and harder to purchase those books, those CDs, those DVDs on the internet. So what I'm saying is when you've got those audio CDs or those DVDs, they are a relatively precious thing, okay? And I think that content is valuable. And I think that basically the public's going to either say, we want to keep all the beauty and greatness of Western civilization, by far, by a factor of over 100, the best civilization the world's ever seen, or we're going to let it go. And if you let it go, What's going to replace it? There's nothing to replace it. So I just see that what I'm trying to say is the big billionaires that run the world, all right, I think they've decided, there's too many people. The proles are like a bunch of vermin overpopulating the world and, polluting everything. It's time to reduce their numbers. We got to get rid of those, Caucasian, Christians, especially the men. They do too much to promote this Christianity and culture stuff. We don't want that, because if people have that, then they think they have rights, and we don't want that. So there's all these efforts to just sweep Western civilization, under the rug, and getting rid of DVD players and CD players on computers and cars is part of it. Also, getting people, like, a lot of times now you try to buy a book, you can't buy the audio CD. You have to get it from, Audible or some other content distributor. They don't let you buy the CD, because if you got the CD, you can say, here, I'll give it to my friend. Also, you can listen to whatever you want with a CD player. They like to know exactly what you're listening. They want to know your thoughts. They want to track you. All of that is not good. All right, so anyways, Andrew Carnegie continues. There is no use whatsoever in trying to help people who do not help themselves. You cannot push anyone up the ladder. And that's been my experience too with vegan diet. You can make videos, you can make a book, you can offer to talk about people, but in my experience, most people are kind of fat and stupid, and they don't want to hear about it. And if you talk about it, they get pissed off at you. So you have to sort of tread lightly on the subject. Leave the information out there. Hopefully they'll see it, but most of them are not too bright. Most people, in my experience, are very simple-minded, and what they want is authority to tell them what to do. I've seen people, they'll have, somebody in their family very sick with a curable illness, whatever it might be, diabetes, severe hypertension, autoimmune disease, multiple sclerosis. And instead of just learning what the potential cure is, they'll just go to the authority. And even if the authority's treatment is the stupidest thing, a real powerful toxic drug that makes them sicker, they'll do that and they'll feel like they did the standard thing. Isn't that good? But the standard thing often means the standard for chumps. Okay, next we're going to do Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie wrote the great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He lived from 1888 to 1955. His first statement is, you can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in other people than you can in 2 years of trying to get other people interested in you. People are not interested in you. They are not interested in me. They are interested in themselves, morning, noon, and after dinner. Yeah, and that's the other thing, too. I think men overestimate how much women like them. Women are great at manipulating men and pretending to be in love with them, even when they're not. A lot of guys can tell you they've seen their fiancé change quite a bit as soon as she gets the magic ring. Okay, Dale Carnegie continues. Listening carefully to a person is the greatest compliment we can give them. An individual who people like to be listened to. It's a sign of respect. Okay, an individual who unselfishly tries to serve others has an enormous advantage. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with my YouTube channel. I looked at so many of these YouTube videos, and what I saw was so many of the YouTube nutrition experts were really sellouts to promote stuff for big corporations, or they're selling the supplement from their website, for example, or they're playing games with information to trick the prole to get sponsors for their YouTube videos. And I said, well, gee, other than McDougall was a little bit too far ahead of me to catch him. But I said, gee, I can catch all these other ones pretty fast. And I eventually, have done a lot of things Dr. McDougall doesn't know, because I come from a different point of view than he does. More biochemistry, more knowledge about the brain, more knowledge about toxicology. But anyways, that's why I was so confident. I'm like, oh, gee, because they're all playing games. I'm not playing games. I could be the best one in the world, and I think I am. And that's what gave me the confidence to do it, because I know that I don't have to play any games. I don't got to recruit anybody to a clinic. It's just a hobby. Okay, but, the price you pay is you get heavily shadow, bond if you tell the truth to the pros. All right, the next quote of Dale Carnegie, actions speak louder than words, okay? And then he says, a smile says I like you. You make me happy. I'm glad to see you. Smile and the world smiles back at you. He also says, don't criticize, don't condemn, and don't complain. And there's truth in that. You'll be more liked in a superficial way, but, eventually if you're going to be a big dog, a heavyweight, you got to just tell the truth about stuff, and that's going to mean criticizing some things. You have to do it if you want to provide useful information. Dale Carnegie continues, most of the important things in the world that are accomplished by people who have kept on trying even when there seemed like no hope at all. I actually think his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, is a great book, and I think every young person should read that, men especially. women tend to naturally develop social skills better than men do. A lot of guys have to really be trained on them, but it's highly worth doing. You need them to get along with people. So I hope those quotes for today were useful.